Good morning. I'm super excited that you guys are here today. You are leaning in and listening with Sierra Earl. And guess what? I have a special guest to you today, and her name is Kimberly Bell. All I can tell you is today you are in for a wealth of knowledge. I know that we've been talking about wealth for the topic of the first of the year, but today we're talking about estate planning. And so many people have the tendency to think to themselves, why do I need estate planning? Do I have enough? Maybe I have too much. But that's usually not the case. And there's so many myths around estate planning. And I just have a very good friend here today to really teach us and educate us about what really estate planning is and how do we prepare? And are you even prepared enough? So, this is a special guest right here, Kim, a really, really good friend of mine. And not only that, but an attorney that specializes in estate planning. So, Kim, I'm super excited to have you today.
Well, thank you so much, Sierra. I just want to say thank you for having me. And first of all, thank you for your friendship. Thank you for your love, your encouragement. You are always so positive and uplifting. You don't know how much I appreciate you in my life. So just thank you. And thank you for having
Oh,
me today.
well, thank you. Thank you. I want you to tell the listeners just a little bit about you and your background as far as your business and how you got into estate planning.
Yes. And now, Ronnie, where should I look? I'm sorry. I should have asked you
You
this
can,
before. Should I look here or should I look here?
Look at that camera.
Look at this
Or you can
camera.
look at Sierra.
yeah,
Or just look at
just talk.
I
Sierra.
want you to be relaxed. So
Okay.
yeah,
I
He
think
can
just
adjust
talking
them.
to her
yeah.
is
Just talk
going
to
to
her, and
be.
I can
Okay.
fix
But then if
everything
you
else.
want me to look somewhere, it'll be that camera.
Yeah, and what I encourage people to consider is that if you have a point you really want to drill home, yeah, look at that focal camera. I'll have it switched on that one if you just want to lock in on that. If you have like a point of emphasis, everything else you can just keep conversational, and I can
Okay.
still work with the wide angle, things like that.
We're going to talk like we at home and we're
Yeah.
talking about the boys and them husbands.
And you said just to talk about myself. Is that what you said?
Okay, hold on. So, Kim, tell the viewers and the audience a little bit about yourself and how you got into estate planning.
Yes. Well, Sierra, you know me well. First, I'll just say I do have three kids, three young kids, 10, almost 10, 8, and 5. Three boys.
Three
All
boys,
All
uh-huh.
boys in my household. And a wonderful husband, Marcus Bell. But I started out a long time ago in consulting. You may not know that for a Fortune 500 company. I was a
Okay.
business consultant. I would travel every week and go to different companies and help
I
them.
did not know that, Kim.
Yes,
See,
yes.
it takes a podcast to learn a little bit more, but okay.
Yes, and so I did that for several years, but traveling every week is for the
It kills,
birds.
yep,
Yes,
mhm,
it
yep.
wasn't for me. So I said, what do I want to do? And I went back to law school. So I went to Vanderbilt Law School, and that was great. I had always wanted to be a lawyer when I was younger, actually, like kind of like Matlock. But so I went to law school, and then I clerked for a judge, a federal judge, Judge Abdul Kalam.
Okay.
It was a great experience. And then I worked as a civil litigator for several years here in Birmingham for a large firm. And that was a great experience, but again, it was still not my full passion.
Right.
So after I had my third child, I said, I really want to step back and do something that I really want to enjoy and have fulfillment in, and that was estate planning and probate work.
Okay.
Because it was working more for people,
Okay.
providing them with a service in our community that I thought was very much needed and that nobody really focused on in particular. And so that's when I went into estate planning, doing wills, trusts, and estates, and working in probate court
Okay.
when someone passes to help them probate the estate.
Right. Wow. So I talk about passion all the time. How did you know that estate planning was a passion? Did you like fumble up on it, or was it something that was always in you as a little girl? Like, how did you know that?
I totally fumbled up on it.
Really?
Definitely. What I always knew is I loved helping people,
Okay.
number one. I think like you, I kind of like older people sometimes. And estate planning does deal with a lot of older people, younger people too. Younger people need to be more involved with estate planning. But older people, especially with regard to probating the estates and those that pass and the families, it's a difficult time, and it's just I think a blessing from God that I'm able to just speak with people and help them through that difficult process.
Right, right. Gosh, Kim. So when I think about you and what you do right now, and having 3 boys, I mean, house full of boys, okay? I mean, I'm split, half girls, half boys. But having a house full of boys and a husband,
I'm the queen.
of course, you are the queen. Let's make it very, very clear. How did you know to pull back? And we have this big conversation with my podcast, like having it all. Like, what does it mean to have it all for you? And I guess for you traveling and doing consultant work, that wasn't enough. You were married, you had a couple of children, and then you realized, you know what? This is enough of me giving to the world. I want to give back to myself, but being able to do it in a passionate way. Like, how did you know that a pivotal point in your life? You know what? I want something more, something different. And like, what was that point for you?
Well,
Was it after having the children and you want to be more present, or
it was definitely after having at
tired.
least one or two. You know, when you have so many children, you kind of forget which one. You know, what happened.
what happened with each one? Like, you know your name, you know,
Right.
yeah.
You know the
Yeah.
story of your birth. But yes, after at least two, I started thinking, and then we had some health issues that came up, and that can really make you realize what's important in your life.
I agree.
And so it was the combination of having the kids and then going through some health struggles in our family when I realized, hey, and somebody told me, one of my colleagues who I love, she said, on your deathbed, honey, they're not going to ask, how many hours did you work?
Right.
You know, it's not going to be, you know, I need to work one more hour. You're not going to be on
Mm-hmm.
your deathbed thinking that for whoever. So make sure what you do, I thought about it after the health issues, is important to you.
Yep.
And number one in my life is my children, my family.
Right.
They're the number one. So being able to balance being there for them, as you know, with kids, they have so many activities these
Right.
days. Just being able to be there for them when I need to be, as well as just still having a career that's fulfilling, and I feel like providing a value to this world.
Right.
So it was after having a couple of kids and realizing they needed me a lot, and then with some health issues in our family, realizing, hey, this work is not going anywhere.
It'll
and-
kill us. It will
Right.
kill us. And if it's going to kill me, let my family do it and not outsiders do it. And that's the
Right.
reality.
Right.
You know, we as women, we birth these children, and then if we're running 24/7, then what was the purpose of having the children? You know, so we have to go back to our why sometimes.
And definitely, I didn't want anybody else to raise my children, for my children to say, hey, you know, call somebody else mom.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Which
Right.
is an option also. And, you know, for women that need to do it, hey,
Go
to
for
each,
it.
To each his own. And I'm not a judge of anybody. But just for me and myself, I want to be there for my
Right.
children when they have, like, for instance, we have a Valentine's program tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Valentine's Day is tomorrow, so I'm going to be there for my
Right.
child and see him in his little, 20-minute program
Go ahead
singing.
and say about 10 minutes.
Yes, 10-minute
Of
program,
fame.
singing some love songs,
Right. But they want to see you out in the audience.
Yes.
So a lot of women always say, you know, Sierra, it seems like you have figured it out. And I tell people all the time, I haven't figured it out. I'm constantly readjusting. But it seems like you and your husband have a good family, good support, and you're able to have flexible hours to do what you do. And I know that Marcus is working like, oh my God, all the time. You know, you're still a working mom, but then you're also there for your kids. Like, how are you able to balance that and still put your suit on, still go and take care of people that are in need? How are you able to be there for them and also be there for your kids?
It's not easy, as you
Yeah.
said, and it's a constant, as somebody told me, a juggling act, but it's
Right.
where you have to realize the priorities in your life and to make sure that those balls don't fall.
Right,
You don't want any balls to fall, but the priorities must always be caught.
right.
And I am so blessed to have such a wonderful support system here where
Mm-hmm.
I live, where we intentionally lived. So, and it's in my mother-in-law, my father-in-law, My mom is not far away, and all of my other family members here, my husband's family primarily, that are my family also, that just love us and love our kids and will do anything for them. And so we are so blessed. We don't have to call on others too much to help, and that is needed.
Right.
It's needed with kids.
Yeah. And you being a powerful woman that you are, sometimes people don't see us break down, or see us really, really balling up and hurting. But I know that she's a friend that I can call on if there's something like, girl, I need some soup, or girl, I'm putting something in your mailbox and I'm here. I may not be physically in your house, but I'm a call away. And so that helps out a lot. So let's get into this estate. Do you need money, Kim, to have an estate?
That is the number one myth. Well, I mean, you need something, but some people think they have nothing. And let me tell you, that's the number one myth. You don't have to be rich. You don't have to be a Rockefeller to have an estate plan.
Okay. Break it down for us.
Yes. If you have anything, if you have a house, if you have real estate, if you have a bank account, if you have a car, that means you have an estate, you have assets.
Right.
And if you have loved ones, if you want to figure out what happens to those things after you pass, you have to make a plan. You have to make a plan. And it doesn't have to be a complex plan.
Right.
Even a simple plan is needed, because if not, the process is just painful for your loved ones. It's just much harder than if you already figure it out for them and just write it down. You make a plan, you put it away, and it's done. You check it off the list.
Right. So what happens if you don't have an estate? What really, truly happens?
If you don't have an estate, it's a big problem. It's called intestate succession.
Okay.
And I tell people, this is a pop quiz I give to all of my, in a presentation, all the people. Do you have an estate plan? They'll say, no. And I say, the answer is yes. The answer is yes. You may not realize it, but if you don't have one, guess what? In this state, the state of Alabama has one for you. It's called intestate succession. So it's the law. What will happen to your assets if you don't say so?
Right.
So, it can be definitely not what you think would happen, because how does the state know what to do with your things? They don't know who you love or who you want. Excuse me.
Go ahead.
To have your assets. The state of Alabama has one for. I'm gonna start over because I'm sorry. Okay, this change in weather has my voice like.
And that was a really, really good point. So.
Okay. I don't know where to pick back up, but I'll just pick back up somewhere.
Pick back up. I can handle the editing. So. Okay. Yes, that was a great adjustment. Okay.
That was.
Yeah.
So Kim, tell the viewers what really happens when you do not plan and you do not have an estate.
Well, I tell people all the time, even if you think you don't have an estate plan, guess what? In the state of Alabama or wherever your state is, you do. It's called intestate succession. So the state has it in the law what will happen to your estate if you don't make the plan for yourself. Your state, the state of Alabama, here where we are, has it for you. And so, it may not be what you would want. It may not say that your assets will go to the loved ones that you would want. With regard to your children, especially if you have minor children, it's so imperative to have an estate plan to name a guardian, because it may not put your children with who you would want them to be with.
Right.
So you must do these things. You must have a plan and name these, a guardian for yourself, and who you would want your assets to go to for yourself. Otherwise, the state of Alabama will do it for you in intestate succession.
Right. What is that called again?
Intestate succession.
Wow. Did you guys hear that? Oh, my God. That's really, really, that is very informative. So how do you even get started? People say, to be honest, I don't even have a will. I don't even know what a POA is or a POD. Why do I need a power of attorney? Why do I need to have a pay of death? Why are those things so important? How do I even begin? So do you sit down with people? Should everybody have a power of attorney, a will, and all of that?
Definitely. Those are the basics. There are at least 3 basics in an estate plan, and there can be more.
Okay.
But at least you must have a will.
Okay.
And it doesn't have to be a complex will, but a will You can name a guardian. That's very important if you have minor children, and to say what's going to happen to your assets. Name an executor,
Okay.
also called a personal representative, that will
Okay.
handle your affairs.
Okay.
Very important. And it's so important for real estate.
Mm-hmm.
If you have real estate, you really need a will, because a deceased person cannot pass property to another person. So it must
Okay.
go through probate court.
That's
Real
right.
estate that when you die, it must go through probate court. The other one is a power of attorney.
Okay.
And you have the medical power of attorney and the financial power of attorney.
Okay.
And those are only valid while the person is
Living.
Is living. A lot of people think it will work after death, but it's only for when the person is living. And for medical, it will say that you are the medical decision maker. So, like, for instance, my husband in the hospital, he's always asking, who's the medical power of attorney? Because that's the person in the hospital that's going to make the decisions. You
Right.
have 10 family members in there, and of course, 10 family members can say, I want to do this, I want to do this. I think she would have
Right.
wanted to do this. But at the end of the day, it's best, so that they're not fighting, to have and name
Somebody
a person,
appointed.
yes, that you trust to handle your medical affairs. When you can't do so, when you can make your own decisions, that person will have no say. But it's only when you cannot, say for yourself.
For yourself.
And what goes along with that is the advanced directive for healthcare, or the living will.
Uh-huh.
That also goes right along with that, because you name a healthcare proxy. That's the third essential document. And it has to do with end-of-life decisions. So decisions that no one wants to make, no one wants to think about, being on life support, if you have a terminal illness and things like that. Do you want to have food and water, hydration? If you have a terminal illness and a doctor has said you will not make it but for that food and water.
Right.
Things like that. So it's just making those decisions and letting your loved ones know what you would want, because in those times, that is the worst time to try to make a decision about taking somebody off life support or feeding them. But when you can say, this is what they would have wanted, they wrote this down, and this is what they believed.
Right.
So that's very important. But going back to the financial power of attorney, the other type, that has to do with making financial decisions. You'd be surprised. Even a wife or a husband can't make financial decisions
for their
if they're-
spouses.
yeah, for their spouses. If they're not on the bill, it's so weird. They will not talk to you. So unless you have a financial power of attorney, if your loved one, your spouse or your mother, father, whoever becomes incapacitated, they can't talk, they can't, do
Speak
things
for themselves,
this comes in handy to be able to pay their bills, handle their bank accounts and things like that. So that's what that one is needed for.
Wow.
So these essentials are what everybody should have. And there's more complex planning with trusts and things like that. But even just these basic documents are essential for making sure you say what happens to your assets.
Right, right. And you know what's so crazy? A lot of people that may have a lot of assets, majority of times we're not even prepared, right?
There are
because
so
we do not
many.
want to think about it. We're like, we're going to live long. I work out, but we don't even have the essentials that we need to make sure that our family is taken care of. And when you talk about wealth, or you talk about leaving a legacy, it starts off with something so small but so great as your services, right?
Yes.
So how old do you need to be to start?
There is no age. Once you start working and making, having a job, you need to start. I have many examples. And just so you know, people are not alone. Only 32% of Americans, the statistics say, have a will.
Right.
So that's not
That's
very
not
many.
a lot
Not
at
very
all.
many. And there are so many celebrity examples. People that are very wealthy that die without a will, or with wills that are invalid.
Wow.
For instance, when you talk about young, I don't know if you remember Heath Ledger.
I do.
Yes, who died. He was 28 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, the Joker in Batman. And he died. His mistake was he had estate planning, but he had left out his daughter. So another thing about estate planning is you have to update it.
Update
You
it.
have to
How
update it.
often do you need to update that?
You need to think about your big life events. Children, getting married, getting divorced.
We
is
sort of
so
talked
important.
about that. Like, when
Yes.
should you update these things? It needs
Yes.
to, all the life events that go on.
Life events. You have to reevaluate. So, of course, he left his assets to his parents and to his siblings, and they took care of his child. But if you
Everybody's
have some,
not like that.
exactly, if you have some greedy,
Family
members,
Yeah, let's be honest,
sadly, then they can fight. Just think about Aretha Franklin.
Yep.
Think about Prince. They both died without wills, and the fights went on for years.
Right.
For years. And on top of that, they had to pay 40% in estate tax. Because when you have assets over, I don't know what it was when they were living, but today, under this administration, we have a large estate tax. It's almost 13.99 million.
Oh, really?
Per person, yes.
Okay,
But back,
I didn't know that.
yes, back when they had passed, it was much lower. And after that amount, you have to pay 40% estate tax.
So they've increased it over just a couple of years.
Yes, yes. But you can avoid that with proper planning, proper trust, irrevocable trust, and things like that. But Aretha Franklin's problem was she wrote out a will.
Right.
And that was invalid.
It's invalid.
It was invalid. You must have 2 witnesses to have a valid will. It must be signed in front of those witnesses and dated and things like that. And different states have different rules, so you have to contact an estate planning attorney in your state.
So let me get this right. You cannot write down your will.
No.
It's invalid.
Yes.
So that's for everybody. I know you have that written down at home, probably up under your bed. It's invalid. You got to get somebody like Kim on board and have 2 witnesses, right, Kim?
Yes.
To be able to make that substantial
And
be able to go-
notarized.
and notarized.
Yes.
Yep. Wow. Oh my gosh. I think I need to get to work too. I think I need to update mine as well.
Yes, I do too.
You do too? But you know what's crazy? We take time out to take care of everybody else. And sometimes we forget to take care of ourselves. And people don't get it. Like, we're all in this together. We're trying to figure out and do the best that we can. And sometimes all the knowledge is sometimes the worst because we forget about ourselves. And we have to have friendships. And I always call it the triangle, but really now it's like a square or a rectangle. You got to have people in your corner. Like, attorneys need attorneys. Coaches need coaches. People need people to take care of them because we're so busy taking care of everybody else.
That's right.
And so, wow.
We need each other. Yes.
So would you say every year, the first of the year, like having a New Year's resolution, you need to have that on the box to update yourself? Because
would be
I have
great.
4 kids now, and I need to update that as well. Update insurance, and I have to add the children all the time, and then you have to break down how much you want to leave per child. But also you have to update your wills too.
Yes. I would say every year if you can, at least every 3 years.
Right.
People would be surprised, but every 3 years, new things usually
happen. Health changes too.
Health
We're
changes,
in
and
our
sometimes,
mid-40s.
unfortunately, things like people pass,
Yeah.
and they may no longer be able to be your trusted advisor that you have listed, things like that. So, it's just not with regard to having children. It's also the people that you name in your documents may not be the people that you want to keep, or that they're just no longer living, unfortunately.
Right. So let me ask you this. So you have children. You have 3. I have 4. And you may say, number 1 child is the one that I want to take over and be able to help the other children. And as they grow up, you say, oh my God, number 1 may not need to have that type of responsibility because I love my child, but that child may not need to be in control. How do you maneuver and change that? But I mean, of course, they're minors right now, so none of them will be like the guardian. All of them are like beneficiaries. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And so as they get older and you see that change, I guess I'm answering my own question, you need to check it every 2 or 3 years, update it.
Yes, and
so
going
you'll know.
even further, Sierra, which people don't want to think about and none of us like to, with regard to children, or it could even be, adult children. That's really when it comes into play. Things like substance abuse and things like that. You can write all of these contingencies in a trust. That's why a trust is such a vital document. I'm talking about a revocable trust, a revocable living trust. You can say, hey, if this child is doing well, I want to give them money to start a business. I want to give them money to get married or, go to college. I want to give them this money at these events or, things like that. But also, if things are going bad, if they get into some alcohol abuse or drug abuse, or God forbid something happens and they get in jail, or any of these things, I want the money to stay in the trust and to be used only for their needs and things like that. So they don't just spend it away. If they get a gambling problem or something like that, a trust is really great for those things as well.
And you also can allocate how often it pays out to them, like
Yes.
quarterly or monthly,
Yes.
instead of giving like lump sums too, right?
Yes, definitely. Definitely. And that's encouraged, especially for when people have a lot of money. A 19-year-old should not get $1 million.
Right.
Because they're probably going to blow it. It just depends on the 19-year-old. I don't know about you or me or maybe our husbands when they were 19. Could they have handled it?
Right.
Probably not. Probably not. Especially
honest.
if we're not there to help them, and that would be
Right.
the case at hand. So,
And then
that's
everybody
why.
knows it, and you start to help everybody. And sometimes we have the ability to have the tendency to help everybody, and then you realize I have to live a long time, and $1 million can go so fast.
Yes.
I mean, half of $1 million, you're talking about $500,000. It can go so fast depending on what bills you have. And if you're talking about college or going to school, I mean, you might as well give that portion to the school just to get education.
Yes.
Right?
And that's other things you can do through a trust is just give directly to education.
Oh, you can.
Definitely. Mm-hmm.
Wow. I mean, guys, I feel like I even have work to do. And I mean, we do a good bit of probate, but sometimes sitting and listen to another expert, it says a lot. So do you do like any community service events to help individuals? Like do you talk at churches or schools or anything like that to embrace or enlighten the community on what you do?
Yes, not usually schools, but yes, community events, churches, and also I help out with the wills clinic. They have a wills clinic with the Birmingham Volunteer Lawyers,
Oh,
and they will provide free wills at certain times of the year.
okay. How many times a year do y'all usually do that?
It just depends, but at least like 4,
Okay.
one a quarter, but more often than that.
Okay.
Depends on the
Okay.
need.
Do you see a lot of people show up to
Yes.
take advantage of those services?
Yes, definitely. And I'm not trying to say I'm at all of them. I
Right.
can't make all of them, but when I'm there, it's always plenty of people showing
Yeah.
up, which is great. I think a lot of people realize it's a need, and so they're there.
Yeah.
It's usually at a church or a community center.
Right. I know that we've had so much death in our family over the years, but just even recently, my husband's had a lot of death. I mean, we all are getting older. Everybody starts to have problems, and you're like, you know what? Life is too short. Do I have my ducks in a row? And like you said, your purpose. Am I living in my purpose? And am I getting rid of all the junk so I can live longer on this earth? But while I'm here, have I planned accordingly? Like, do I have my things? Have I prioritized my things for my children? And sometimes I think we just be living in the moment and we haven't done that. And we really got to get back to doing that. Or if you have never done it, it's time to get into gear to do it.
Yes, and that's the
Right.
biggest thing is just, reaching out to somebody. It makes you think about everything.
You
have to
do.
think about your loved ones and what you would want to happen to them. And I know a lot of people don't want to think about this, and I can totally sympathize and
It is
understand.
daunting. It is.
Yes.
It's daunting.
But I tell people all the time, I'm sorry. If you didn't realize it, I'm sorry. You won't be here forever.
I know.
None of us will. That's just the way it works. So
Yep.
it's better to just go ahead and, face it, write down what you want, and move on. Then you
Right.
can know it's done. You will feel so much better about it.
Right.
And like I said, you do need to update it. But once it's done, at least you have that. But thinking about, your loved ones, who you would want to have things, and then
Right.
the actual assets you have, you'd be surprised. People, when I give them a list, the first thing is they have to write down all of their assets.
Right.
And that's a job, and it's a good
It
job
is.
because, your children, your parents, they don't know what you have. So just making a list of those things is so important because if you've had someone pass and trying to figure out what they have and where it is, that can be the biggest issue. So making a list and having a a great plan, in place, written down that somebody can come find and look at is just invaluable at a difficult time. When
Right.
someone passes, it shows your love.
Right.
It shows your love for your loved ones, that you cared enough to take the time to do that
To
for
do
them.
that, right? I know that sometimes. I know this. I lost my parents at an early age, so I have the tendency to journal a lot. Excuse me. I journal a lot, and I love to put notes everywhere. And in an event of anything happening to me, I want each child to know what they meant to mom and what I meant to them. And so I have these little sayings for each kid, and regardless of where I am, if they can see that on paper or they can hear that voice, it's like I told my husband, like, I want a recorder for Valentine's Day. I know we got red on today. I was like, I want a recorder because when I'm reading to the kids at night, Lillian had this little project, and it says, we want you to, well, it wasn't a project, it was homework. When you're reading, read somewhere fun. Read up under a tree. Record your mom while she reads to you. And so she recorded me, and she has a tendency to listen to it every night before she goes to bed. So sometimes if I have so much to do, I'll record myself reading, and then I'll let her see that. And so small things like that, I'm like, Lord, I need to start keeping like recordings because I don't have my mom anymore. I can hear her voice. I can hear my father's voice. But if I had that little, the recordings, that will keep your mind in a right place. Let me just tell you, and it'll keep you going. So some of those small things that we don't think is relevant is so relevant and so needed for our children or our loved ones. It can be like my husband's the only child for his mom, and I'm sure she would want to hear his voice, or he would like to hear her voice if neither one was still here.
Yes.
So I just
my
thought,
father passed, and I love looking back and hearing him. He was a singer also. So we have some recordings of him singing, and it touches your heart so much. It does. And I like recording my children also because they're little baby voices,
It's not going to stay like that long. They're going to be like
stay-
all grown men talking. Jackson's voice is changing now, which I am not liking it. Like we're butting heads like
my
crazy.
goodness.
But he's still my baby boy, right? He'll always be. Yeah. Wow, we just got sort of touched a little bit, and I know you've had death in your life, and it just makes you really, friendships, just everything. And it just makes us just pause, step back, figure out what's really important. But not only that, get our butt in gear and get things cleaned up and in order. So if something was to happen, we've done our job and we've prepared our family and loved ones to be able to take care of our things when we're no longer here. Gosh, oh, Kim. I'm a little touched right now. I can't stand talking about a couple of things. That's finances, that's health, but then I love talking about finances and I love talking about health because I like to hit it hard on. If I hit it, then to be honest with you, it helps me de-escalate because I got it behind me. I think a lot of people don't understand stress and all of that stuff is nothing but things that are built up that you have not released. And if I can go ahead and talk about the things that give me a headache at night to give me a peace of mind, like that gives me a peace of mind. We have these children, but you want them to go to college. You want them to be great in life. If they don't go to college, get a trade. You want them to be successful. But sometimes we don't set them up for success because we're so busy living in the moment. And I feel like what you're saying, this estate planning, everybody needs to sit down and do it.
Yes.
And a lot of our stuff is not right because it's on paper. And so I need to get back to the drawing board even for myself and update it and also get it notarized because that stuff is not real. It's none and void, to be honest, because I haven't updated it and got it notarized, right?
Yes. So important.
Wow.
So important. Yes. And it just takes, it doesn't take much time at all.
Right.
You meet with somebody maybe for 30 minutes, an hour, tell them what you want. Then it takes you time to write down all of your assets, like I said, what you would want. But then after that, that lawyer will take it in their hands and do everything for you Then you meet up again. You might review it, and then you sign it, and it's done.
Mm.
I mean, it's really not a process that's going to take, a very long.
Long time. I know that I do a lot of consulting with businesses and individuals too, and I'm always doing a PFS, a personal financial statement, and basically that shows all your assets and your liabilities and what your owner's equity is, right? And I guess that would be something that people need to maybe do more of to be able to set up their estates. Because if they have that on a continuous basis, because to be honest with you, I tell my individuals to update it every year. When you update your taxes, well, when you have to complete your taxes, you need to update your PFS. If you update that, you know where you stand, you know what insurances you have. And let's just talk about what are your assets and liabilities. People probably think, well, what really truly is an asset? And what would be your answer for that? Like, what is all the assets when you look at your client's portfolio? What do you consider an asset?
Anything they own, especially, and I like to learn about even joint ownership and
Okay.
things like that. It could be air property, because we've talked about the things like your home, real estate, automobiles, but air property, this is a thing that comes up very often in our community where property is passed down without a will, and so it's split among the heirs. But that is still an asset, and it can just depend. It can be difficult to try to, get it to where it can be usable because it can be divided. But an attorney can help to make sure that it can be put in one name and then actually sold or used in a way that is beneficial.
Wow.
So there's so many assets.
So many assets.
And of course, just, stocks and retirement assets,
Mutual funds.
heirlooms, paintings, if you have valuable paintings or anything like that. Assets are all of your things.
All of your things.
All of your things.
Your jewelry, like you said, your paintings. It could be your
Yes.
furniture in your home.
And if you
Yeah.
want things to go to particular people, you
can
can
put
write
it
that
in
down
there.
also.
Yep.
Yes, if you have a little girl, you want to make sure, of course, your little girl has all of your jewelry or things like that,
Right.
because otherwise, it will be left to the executor, the personal representative, to divide those things.
Right.
And they may or may not think about things like that. They may think, oh, you may want this necklace to go to that son, but really you just wanted it all to go to your daughters.
Right.
You just have to write things
Because the
down.
boys give it to their wives.
Exactly.
you wanna keep
exactly.
it?
Exactly. Do you want your ring on that, young lady?
Well, you have nothing but boys, so I don't know if that's going to
right.
help
It's not going to help me.
you. You have to pray early, right?
Yes, I'll have to give it to the wives.
yeah. So a lot of people probably don't know. Like, it's so funny. Oh gosh, Kim. If I think about it, I've been knowing you for a very long time. I think we've had all our babies together and didn't even know it.
Yes.
And I mean, we're in Jack and Jill together, which we love Jack and Jill, and so many other community and boards and all kind of stuff. But it's so crazy how you think about how long you've known somebody, and we really don't talk about what we do. Isn't that crazy?
Yes,
Like if we're
We're too busy
talking-
having fun.
we're having fun,
usually.
and we're talking about the kids and Super Bowl and all this other stuff, but we don't really even talk about what we do. Because when you think about friendship, you're like, girl, I don't care what you do in the daytime. We just want to be a mom or be a wife or be a girlfriend at the moment. And all the other stuff is really irrelevant. But we need to lean on each other a little bit more, because I need you to probably sit down and look over all my stuff
Yes,
to make sure
honey.
that it's
No
updated.
problem. But thank you so much for having me on here just to talk about it.
I know. Thank you so much, Kim. I truly appreciate it. If the viewers were to want to get to know more about you and what you do and to be able to assist them, where can they find you?
Well, in this age of technology, you would go to www.kimberlybelllaw.com. KimberlyBellLaw.com, and our phone number is 205-407-1449. But everybody uses the internet and gets on websites, so it's
Absolutely.
KimberlyBellLaw.com. Or if you just Google Kimberly Bell Attorney, the Kimberly Bell Law Firm will come up.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Kim. I truly appreciate it.
Thank you, Sierra.
Thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. I hope this was a wealth of knowledge, learning about estate planning. And this is just the beginning of so much. I want to be a resource to you guys. I don't want you to just sit here and listen to me, but I want to bring great resources to you so we can all lean in and listen together.